Hello there, and welcome to the Craig Kenneth Show.
Hi, this is Coach Victoria.
This is Coach Craig Kenneth, and we have an interesting situation that we're going to talk with a live caller today. Her name is Samantha. Now, Samantha is in her early 20s, and she's never had a relationship before. Is that right?
Yep.
And today she's going to be talking about a struggle she's been having with somebody that she's been talking with for a while, but they haven't even had the courage to see each other yet.
Yeah.
Let's find out what's going on. Samantha, can you hear us?
Yeah, hi.
Hi, welcome to the show. We're happy to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So, can you tell us a little bit about what's going on?
Okay, so I met a guy about 3 years ago online, and we have been literally talking on and off. Like it could be like an 8 month span of us talking very continuously. And then I kind of put forth the effort of wanting to meet, and then it just never works out because I never push to meet, and then he never seems interested. Um, because we both never had relationships, so I think it's almost like we're scared to step on each other's toes with stuff
Okay,
like that.
let me ask you a couple of questions real quick. Is he around the same age?
He's 2 years younger.
Okay, so he's a little bit younger, and you're in your early 20s, right?
Hmm.
And has he ever had a relationship before?
He's never had a relationship.
Okay, and how far away does he live?
He's only like 45 minutes. It's not that long.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
so, and you've been talking for 3 years.
Yeah.
Wow, that's kind of crazy when you think about it, that you've
Mm.
been talking to somebody so intimately for so long, and yet you don't even see each other in person. It's like you could go to the grocery store, have an interaction with the clerk, and it's more than you've had with this person that you know so well.
At least in person. It's reminding me of Love is Blind, when you have such a strong, like, communication built relationship, and not having met in person, not having that aspect. I think in some ways you can go so deep with conversation that maybe the physicality of being in someone's presence can be kind of distracting to that.
Yeah,
I can see that there's that part of you that wants to meet him because, you're curious to see kind of where this would go and you're
sure.
wondering what the barriers are to meeting.
Okay, so how often are you guys talking? And, do you talk for at hours at a time? Sometimes when we have those kind of long distance connections, we could talk to someone forever.
So we talk every day. Sometimes it's only a couple times a day, depending on how busy we are, because he works a pretty busy schedule, but a lot of times it's throughout the day, pretty consistently.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about the dynamic or maybe the things that you talk about. Just tell us a little bit about that relationship.
Um, I think most of the time it's casual, but he's kind of shy, is what I've noticed. And I have a hard time with being very vulnerable and like opening up with a lot of things. And I think that's a huge part of why we haven't met. So, I mean, we talk about our day and stuff like that, like that's normal, but like sometimes I'm not having like the best day or he's not having the best day, and we'll talk about like what's going on there. Um, and I don't know, like I think it's just very it's casual, but when I think he tells something's wrong, I think he'll pry a little bit more. But I think it's mainly like on the casual side.
No.
Casual side. Tell me a little bit more about that.
It's kind of just like we talk about each other's days and stuff like that. And I mean, we know like of each other and like about each other. So I don't think we try to like pry as much as we used to when we first started meeting, if that makes sense. It's just kind of like friendly banter throughout the day.
Mm.
Do you guys ever do video calls or is it audio only?
Uh, we don't even really call on the phone.
Mm.
It's just texting?
Yeah,
But you have talked on the phone or have you video chatted at any point?
we've talked literally like once.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah,
One time? Hold on. Hold on. One time in 3 years?
yeah.
Wow. That's pretty wild to think if you're talking to somebody that consistently every day, but it's only through text.
Hmm. What do you know
Yeah.
about his life? What does he do for work? Does he live on his own? Does he go to school?
So he's like an I don't know how to explain it. He does sports like professionally. So that's like his main thing. And then he also, for his job, he coaches that sport.
Hmm.
Um, so he's pretty busy throughout the day, whether it's him like training or it's him doing coaching. He lives with his parents, stuff like that. His other brother lives in like Florida or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, so I mean, I know about him. We just haven't like made the time or anything to like actually meet.
Okay, but it's not so much about the time. It's about, both of you saying, let's actually do this. Let's make
Hmm.
this happen. You're 45 minutes away. Your schedules clearly aren't that much of an issue that you can't meet one time in 3 years. Okay. So what's going on there? It sounds like you're both afraid, or do you ever wonder if he's hiding something about his life? Is there any concerns about that?
So he doesn't talk to people much on like a daily basis. And like I feel like sometimes he's a little bit awkward to talk to. And he even says it sometimes, like he feels like he doesn't know how to talk to people. And I get the same way. And I think so, like we genuinely, I think it's almost like a fear of like meeting each other. Because I think we might have like expectations or something of each other or like of how we're gonna act. And so if we don't meet that expectation, I think it would be like almost like embarrassing in a way.
Yeah.
Um, Especially because we both like have never been on a date ever. Like it would be starting from like ground zero with both of us. And I think it's anxiety, I guess, just like not wanting to meet.
Interesting. So the two of you have built this relationship via text, and there's almost like this fear of if we meet in person, will it compromise the texting relationship that we have?
Will we lose each other?
Yeah.
That's what it feels like almost.
And it's also bringing up an interesting point because you said that he coaches sports, so he must be somewhat social to be able to do that. And I think this is bringing up a good point because, you can be extroverted or introverted and, have a certain attachment style, right? So how social we are doesn't necessarily have to tie to our attachment style. So it's making me wonder, just about I can't say that he's avoidant, but there's certain things that are making me wonder if he is just because of how long the two of you have been talking without kind of taking that next step,
Yeah. I mean, that seems avoidant to me.
right?
Okay. I mean, you're talking to somebody for 3 years and you're not asking them to meet or get
Mhm.
together. Has it ever seemed like he's even come close to asking you to get together?
So what the weird thing was, the past 2 years that we've talked, there has been times that I've actually mentioned it and he was like, no. And like he's like flat out been like, no, I don't want to, like I'm not comfortable. He doesn't hang out with people and like he's just like, no, like I think he was genuinely like scared. And this time that he started talking to me again, he actually like mentioned hanging out and then never brought it up again. Like he'll like
Mm.
slip it in there and then just never wants to talk about it again. And then he was actually on vacation and he brought me something back from vacation and then never mentioned giving it to me. Like he told me that he brought me something and he showed it to me, but then never mentioned like meeting up to give it to me.
Mm.
Wow. I mean, I think you guys are both so afraid of taking it to another level that you're going to be uninterested or lose the connection. But ultimately, how can you maintain a connection that isn't progressing in some way, even if small way? So I'm just wondering, like, is the fear of not seeing each other ultimately going to lead to you guys not talking anyway? Like I always say, the very thing that we're afraid of, we often cause to
Mhm.
happen.
Yeah, I could see in this situation, it's there's that fear of meeting each other in person and losing what you have, but then on the other end, it's, this relationship really turning into like a pen pal and then not really progressing. And then at a certain point, either of you are going to make a decision, because this could be something that's potentially holding you back from having somebody local that you can connect with, that you can build, something in person with.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think my main thing is I think I have a very big fear of like intimacy and being vulnerable. Like that's a huge thing for me. Like a lot of my friends, they always say it, they know almost absolutely nothing about me because I just don't feel comfortable or like almost like safe sharing information about me. And so I think if we were to meet, it would obviously be like romantically. And I know that you can't hold back things from like a partner. Like you have to be open and vulnerable. And I think that's almost like what's keeping me from meeting him in some sort of way. Just because I feel like sometimes I'm not ready to be vulnerable with people. Um, I think it comes from like a fear of like them not accepting me and stuff like that.
Sure. I mean, so many of us deal with fear of rejection
Hmm.
and fears of vulnerability. It sounds like you probably have a hard time trusting people too. But you guys have, I think, both put a lot of pressure on this situation, and you've created this enormous outcome in your mind where it's like, well, if we don't wind up dating and getting together, then this is a failure and it's a catastrophe. And I think shifting your mindset would be really helpful for both of you. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't even suggest, meeting up first. I would say, you've only done one phone call in 3 years. I think, maybe, hey, how about we start sending each other some voice notes,
Right.
right?
Have you done a video chat with him ever?
No.
Yeah. And that's the other part. I don't know if you've seen the MTV show Catfish, not suggesting that he's a catfish,
But it
but,
is possible. I
there's
mean,
that.
I suppose, unless you know his social media and you're able to see that it's real.
Right. And it's interesting. I could see how, um, that fear of intimacy, it's almost like that fear of really being seen and perceived. And so having this relationship through text, you can kind of share your thoughts in kind of this curated way in a text message that's much different from the raw experience of being face to face, eye to eye with someone. I'm curious to hear what you would like out of the situation ideally, because it sounds like there is that part of you that wants to meet. It sounds like you've been the one suggesting it, and he's kind of been somewhat receptive sometimes, but sometimes not. Most of the time, maybe not. What do you want out of this situation?
I mean, I would like to meet, because we do get along very well. And I think it's weird because he does seem avoidant, but he also seems very secure and like how he grounds himself, I guess you could, I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, avoidance can kind of disguise themselves as secure, but a guy talking to somebody for 3 years and one text or one phone call in 3 years, that doesn't sound very secure to me.
And it's hard to hide when more of your life is exposed. Right now, all that's been really exposed are his thoughts through text, which is very different from, meeting, seeing him in person, maybe at some point, meeting people that are in your lives. Once things kind of expand and you get more, you get closer to each other, then it's harder to hide those things. But going back
Yeah,
to what it is that you would like, ideally, it sounds like you want to meet him then.
yeah, I would like to, because like you also don't know if you like someone 100% just over the phone, right?
Absolutely.
So I would like to explore if we do mesh well in person and stuff, because he could also be a totally different person in real life. And he could think I'm a totally different person in real life. And so I want
Absolutely.
to explore that. Um, because we've been talking for a while, and like if I didn't like his personality from what I'm getting, I would not have talked to him for this long. So I would like to meet. But I feel like that's the thing is why we don't meet, because we know it would be like a romantic date aspect almost.
Okay, and that's scaring both of you.
Hmm.
I think so.
Okay. Well, I think that maybe you guys could try easing into this. Like I said, and it sounds kind of silly, but I think maybe switching to, instead of sending him text messages, Try sending him some voice notes, like instead of a text. And then maybe after you send some, and he seems a little bit comfortable with it, he may start to feel comfortable and send you voice notes.
Mhm.
And maybe you say, "Hey, could you send me some voice notes? I would like to hear your voice." And then maybe you say, "It's been nice hearing your voice. Why don't we do a phone call? Do you have some time coming up where we could do a phone call?" You got to get used to, you guys have put this huge, uh, what's the word I'm looking for?
Pressure,
Pressure on this, yeah,
expectation.
expectation on the situation that you're not able to just relax and be yourself because you're so scared of the outcome.
Mhm.
We'll try getting more comfortable with getting a little bit more vulnerable, voice notes, phone calls,
Mhm.
then a video call. I know it's terrifying, right? Oh, we got a video call.
The reality is it's going to be a risk either way.
It's
It's
interesting is that you're doing a video call with us right now. We can see.
Yeah.
The listeners can't, but we can see you.
hmm
And so, you're able to do it.
hmm Right. And there might be a certain point where you outgrow him or outgrow this relationship. It sounds like you're wanting more than just the messaging, back and forth with him. It sounds like you're wanting to challenge yourself to take it to that next level and to that next step. And I loved what you said about, you don't really know if you like a person until you see them, trying to think about what direction you're going in. So I like that mindset shift from oh no, it's scary to be vulnerable and he might reject me to what am I going to think of him? He probably is scared himself, in a lot of ways. So I think this is a healthy challenge. I think it's something healthy that you're wanting here to kind of, take it to the next step. And this could also go in many different directions. He might say, hey, no, I can't talk. Hey, no, I don't want to send voice notes. Hey, no, I'm not comfortable with calling or video chatting. And at that point, you might have to make a decision at a certain point. We know we can't force anybody to do anything. And, 3 years now that the two of you have been messaging, if he's still unwilling to talk on the phone or, meet in person at this point, you
Even,
could,
yeah, even moving the bar a little bit further
right,
along. If he's not willing to do those things, then how is this going to go anywhere?
right. And the,
Wait, I
the
mean,
risk here, it sounds like this dynamic has been working decently for you just because of your own, fears of being vulnerable. But think about the long term. I think this whole situation is almost like a call to the next step for you of this is either going to be okay, he's going to meet in person, both of you are going to face your fears, or he's going to back out. And you're going to have to decide, do I stay in this? That might be keeping me from genuine connection and vulnerability with other people and growth with other people. Or am I just going to stick in this dynamic that's comfortable? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that is one of the main reasons why I do talk to him because I'm comfortable with him. Because I feel like when other people talk to me, they push me at a pace that I'm not comfortable with, especially because I'm not comfortable with opening up and stuff like that. So they'll be like, "Hey," the next day, like we start talking, they're like, "Do you want to meet up?" or something like that, and I am like, "No, no, no!" Like I'm not ready to do that. And I feel like a lot of people, especially my age in this dating world, they don't want that. They're ready to like move on to stuff like immediately, and I'm not comfortable with that. And so I think that's why I like talking to him because he's also kind of in the same boat with me. Being, I guess we're both slow to moving into things. And I think I get scared of when people want to rush into things. And so I think it's hard for me to talk to other people as well because of that aspect.
sure. I mean, it's scary to be vulnerable with people, and it is scary because people will hurt you, people will reject you, people
Hmm
will let you down,
People will push.
people will push.
Hmm
Um, so you have to consider, being vulnerable and the risks that come with it, but also the risks that come with not, trying to get to know other people and maybe feeling lonely all the time or isolated,
hmm
and not getting a connection with somebody that you could ultimately wind up in a relationship with.
All right. And I could see an ideal scenario for you being in a situation where you can voice those discomforts, where you can say, hey, maybe I'm not ready to meet you next week. I would like to chat a little bit more first and kind of see where things go. So I understand that, people are going to have their different viewpoints on what pace they want their relationships to go in. But, if somebody does like you, then you want somebody who's going to have that patience and flexibility to work with you a little bit. And it sounds like you're almost on the opposite extreme here, right? He's so not pushy. In fact, you're the one saying, "Hey, I would like to meet up," and he's the one kind of saying no. So that might be a more comfortable dynamic rather than having to tell someone, "Hey, no, you're pushing some of my boundaries here and I'm not ready to meet."
And one other thing that you got to think about is healthy relationships. What does a healthy relationship look like? And are you guys lining up in any kind of way that can create one together? I mean, we're so extreme here that like the visual I get for you both is like you're both hermit crabs
Mm.
in like a pet store in separate tanks, and one of you pops up, looks at the other one, and then goes back in the shell. And the other one comes out of the shell and pops up, waves, and then goes back in the shell. That's what this relationship feels like.
Yeah.
You're not even in the same tank. You're across the store. You see each other. Oh, hey. And then you go and hide for 6 weeks. So it's like you have to think about what a healthy relationship is going to look like and how are you guys ever going to get there at this pace going like this? I think the pressure has been building and building and building. And the idea of this, oh, this romantic date is terrifying for you. Well, shift your idea of it. Your goal should just be to go somewhere and have fun. You don't have to be vulnerable. You don't have to talk about all these huge vulnerable things. You're just going to do something fun together that you might like and just keep that your mindset. I just want to go somewhere fun with you. Go for a walk, go to a park, go to an arcade
Mhm.
and have some fun and just see no pressure beyond that. Let's just see each other. Now, like I said, that sounds terrifying for you where you're at. That's why I'm saying do voice notes,
Mhm.
do some phone calls, do a video call. Try to get this going in a direction where either you can find out if you even enjoy each other's company in
Mhm.
person, or you're just in a situation that isn't ultimately going to go anywhere anyway.
Right. And I could see this being a lot about your own growth. I can see that there's this expectation of, oh my gosh, if we meet up, it's going to be under this romantic context. And we've been, talking for the past 3 years, and there's kind of this buildup and anticipation and anxiety. I would see this from the viewpoint instead of, expecting this to flourish into, the most connected, most committed, longest term kind of relationship, seeing it as, what is this going to show me? How is this going to help me grow to face this? Because, staying the same, staying how it has been for the past 3 years, that comes with its own consequences too.
You're going to be 83 and you've had one conversation and it's going to be about his grandkids. You're going to be like, wait, what?
Now, did you say that there was like an on and off kind of pattern, or have the two of you been consistently talking for the last 3 years?
No, it's definitely been on and off.
Okay, tell me about that.
So we started talking in 2022, and I don't know why. We just like didn't like each other. Like I don't know why. We continued talking to each other for like 2 months, but we like were fighting all the time, like over text. Like
Mm.
we were fighting all the time. Like I don't think we even like talking to each other. And so I don't know why I don't know why we did it. Like I genuinely look back and I have no idea. And so I was just like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. Like after like 2 months, I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I remember us having like one good conversation that entire time, like genuinely one good conversation. And so I got into kind of a different relationship and it ended up being really bad. And we split up at the end of like 2023. Or no, it was like around September. And so he texted me in Christmas of 2023. And it was very weird because he was like, I know that you had had like a boyfriend this entire time. He's like, that's why I didn't text you. And I was like,
Hmm.
we didn't even like each other. Like, we didn't even like talking to each other. So I had no idea where that came from, I guess, in that aspect. And he told me that he was like very comfortable with me. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't know where that came from because we were always fighting. But
Mhm.
he was like, you were the only person, like, there was a couple of times that like I think he needed someone to talk to about stuff, and he would always talk to me about stuff. And so I think he formed some sort of like comfortability with being able to express his emotions that he didn't talk to with anyone. Um, and he always told me that like I was the only person he was comfortable talking to with this stuff. And it was just very weird. And we started talking for about 6, 7 months. Um, and I had like suggested meeting up and he said no. And so I was like, okay, I just don't want to talk anymore then. Like, because I'd asked him like a couple of times if he wanted to meet up. I didn't want to like be pushy.
Mhm.
But I was like, I'm not gonna be your online girlfriend forever. Like I literally said that.
There's just ChatGPT for that nowadays.
Yeah.
Which
And
isn't going well from what the research is showing, huh? Have you
That
seen
too.
it?
yeah. And especially because we don't live that far apart from each other. And the job that I had was literally 10 minutes away from his house. So we weren't far at all.
Wow.
So I just didn't want to continue a relationship, like you said, that I didn't see any growth.
Mhm.
Um, and then so we stopped talking then, and he texted me like a month ago, and he was like, so I was like thinking a lot about it, and he was like, I think I want to meet up this time and stuff like that. And I was like, where did this come from? Like genuinely, I had no idea where this came from because we hadn't talked
Sounds
at
like an
all.
avoidant to me, right? Disappear for long periods and they've been thinking about you that whole time. And you're like,
Mhm.
what?
Yeah, I had no idea where that came from because he hadn't texted me once. He hadn't done anything. Like he wasn't even looking at my social media from what I saw.
Hey, you do
S-
Mhm.
yeah, so he was like, I think like I want to meet up this time and stuff like that. And he'd actually talked about a couple of things of like about us meeting up. And then he went on that vacation, like I said, and brought me back something. And it was just weird because he's being more forward about meeting, I guess, this time, but then doesn't like make actual plans.
Mhm.
Yeah. Listen, I really think that if I was you, I would send some voice notes,
Mhm.
then send him some video notes, slowly. You don't have to do this all in one day. Send him some voice notes, then, instead of just text messages, switch it up. Be a little bit more putting yourself out there a little bit more, where it's a little bit more, he sees you as more of like a real person as opposed to just
Mhm.
text messages.
Right.
And then make some videos, short little videos. Hey, blah, blah, and maybe you respond to what he's saying in a 30-second clip. You send that to him. So he sees that, like you're slowly like putting yourself out there where he starts to see you as more than just
Mhm.
somebody behind a screen. And then, trying suggest again, hey, you mentioned getting together when you messaged me. What did you have in mind? When were you thinking?
Mhm.
Just open-ended. And it was like, I don't know. I don't think that's a good idea. At that point, I might say, look, why don't you message me when you do want to get together? We don't have to put all this pressure on it. We could just go out and have some fun. But it would be nice to see you. We've been talking for 3 years.
Mhm. Right. And I think with him bringing up the fact that he got you a gift and the fact that now he is kind of insinuating he wants
Be
to
like, I
see
want that gift.
you, right?
It
There's
was from Germany.
fodder for your
I
request
want those
there.
nesting dolls. I don't know what it is. Do you know what it is?
Yeah, he was on the beach and he said that he picked out like he went around the beach picking out like seashells for me. He was like, I thought you would like these ones. So he didn't buy anything, but he
Okay.
said he spent a long time picking them for me and I didn't ask for them. So it was like I thought it was nice because he had thought about me while he was on the trip. That's what I got from that. Anyways, I could be wrong, but that's what I got from that.
Okay. He
Yeah.
he picked up one shell for each time he's going to ghost you.
No.
Yeah.
So we're gonna find out how many times he's gonna disappear.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious how comfortable you would be because I agree with Craig, kind of upping the ante a little bit, seeing how he responds, more with voice notes, with, maybe even a video call. But at a certain point, the topic of meeting up in person is going to come up again. And I do think applying a bit of a pressure wouldn't be necessarily a bad thing,
And I don't
because,
think that's gonna feel like pressure if she's just sending voice notes.
but I mean, in terms of meeting up,
Yeah,
that
sure.
conversation is going to come up.
Yeah, slowly let him feel let more comfortable.
Right. And so at this point, you're risking your time, your energy, your attention, and these things are valuable. So you want to treat them as valuable. So how comfortable do you feel in having that conversation about meeting in person. And I know it's hard when you've already been shut down once. And I know we've been talking this entire call about vulnerability and how scary it is to put yourself out there out of that fear of being rejected. How comfortable do you feel having that conversation with him again?
Um, I know that he's been better this time around, like wanting to meet, but I think I really am scared of like rejection. Like I can't handle it. Um, and so whenever I think of like, I'll even like think of scenarios like I'll try to like almost predict the future, and like I'll think
You're
of like,
you're
oh
doing it in a protective way though, when you think of it like that. Like
yeah,
you're thinking about everything that could go wrong and you're protecting yourself by thinking like that.
yeah, I try to anyways, but I think it backfires on me because then I'm like, oh, I'm just never gonna ask because I get scared because I think of like all the bad things that could happen. It could be like him not wanting to meet, or like he just ends up not liking me, something like that if we did. And so I think because I think of so many negative things, I'm like, oh, then what's the point of doing that? So I think that's like the main reason why I haven't fully asked him. Because I'm not very good with signals, I think, because I talked to my friends about it a couple of times, and he actually was like, well, you can come pick up the seashells if you want. And I just didn't even
Oh,
respond to that. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, that sounds like a bid to actually see you,
Mhm.
but it's like he's gonna like I'll leave them in the mailbox. Maybe he'll be in the house with binoculars
yeah,
watching you.
yeah. And I just didn't respond to that. Like, I didn't know how to respond to that because I thought he was joking at first. Because with him, I never know.
And I'll also say
Um,
just an internet safety disclaimer. I would encourage
yeah,
you to meet in public.
yeah,
Just saying, because you haven't video chatted with him yet, there's still that we don't quite know who this person is. But I do agree that that was kind of a bid for connection of, okay, hey, I'm open to meeting up. Even if it's a joke, there's always that little bit of truth in each joke.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. But I took that as a joke, so I never like, I guess,
He may
pressed
have
on
been
that.
he may have been testing the waters by making that joke. He
Hmm.
may have wanted to see if you were gonna be like, okay, yeah, cool, I would like that. So maybe he was hoping you would be like, it's just a joke. Will she say yes? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so he did that, and I just never, I guess I never like tried to do anything after that. Like, I didn't even respond really to that. I changed the subject. I remember that. And I remember my friends were like, why did you do that? Like, that was him asking you to hang out, essentially. But I
Yeah.
completely changed the subject after that. And he's
Well,
done that a couple of times.
that fear of rejection in you is you're saying to yourself, I can't handle rejection. Okay, you got to really look at that and think about that. I can't handle rejection. When you tell yourself that, then you're going to make it bigger in your mind. Maybe, okay, you can't handle rejection from who? Or break those questions down smaller to
Hmm.
yourself. You can't handle being rejected by somebody you've never met before? I mean, does that, when you kind of think about it,
Hmm.
instead of I can't handle rejection, think about it in smaller ways. Can you handle rejection by somebody you've never met? Yeah, I guess I could. You know what I mean? It starts to not feel so overwhelming.
And I would say the same thing just in terms of fear of what's the worst that can happen. Now, I know that that question, even me saying it out loud, it's anxiety producing. I'm like, oh my God, the world could catch on fire and then everything could burn down. Anything could happen. But thinking about it very bluntly in this scenario, from my perspective, the worst that can happen here is that you lose somebody who wasn't willing to meet up with you.
Yeah. After 3 years, not
Hmm.
3 weeks, 3 years
Hmm.
of coming in and out of your life. So
Hmm.
I,
Yeah.
I think ultimately I like the idea of making small bids to put yourself out there a little bit and see how he responds to those
Hmm.
bids. And then after some time, if it doesn't feel like he's going anywhere, then I might say, hey, look, you had mentioned getting together when you reached out. What did you have in mind? Did you still want to do that? If he
Hmm.
says, no, I don't want to, that point you could pull back and say, well, look, I like talking to you. We don't have to make this date into a big, huge deal. We could just go out and have some fun. So why don't you reach out to me when you'd like to do that? And that way you can stop investing so much energy into somebody that isn't even willing to see you when they're literally at some points 10 minutes away.
Yeah, yeah. This is reminding me of something that I saw on social media. Sometimes I like social media. sometimes I'm like, this social media thing is pretty cool. But there was a post that I had seen, and it was like a picture of a sunset, and it was two of them. Like one picture above,
That's
one
Star
picture.
Wars.
It's not Star Wars.
It could be.
But the picture had said, the top one was, the world if they reject you. And then the bottom one is like the world if they accept you. And so the point of that is that, things kind of continue on and have a way of, working themselves out. That's, my interpretation of that. And one thing that I want to address that you had mentioned earlier that I think is really important is you had said that some of your close friends don't even know things about you. So having people that we can be vulnerable with in our circle and in our life, even just starting as friends. I know this is your first relationship, so there's already that pressure. If we're able to be vulnerable with friends, that makes you a lot more resilient to breakups, to rejection, to feelings of loneliness and all of these other things, because then you can think back, okay, I have a group of people that I can talk about this with. I'm really honored that you chose to speak about this whole situation on the call with us. And I think you've done a really great job of being vulnerable, even in some ways here.
And I want to say one other thing too that you want to consider. Not everybody has to be super in that super close knit circle,
Hmm.
right? Like think about like the target bullseye, right? You could maybe have one or two people in your life that you want that to know all those close things about you or a lot of those close
Hmm.
things about you. And then the next ring out, you could have another set of people that you trust in that level, and then another set you circle out those people that you trust a little bit less, but you have some trust in. So you don't have to put somebody in that close knit circle.
Hmm.
You can put them on one of those outer rings and say, okay, this is only our first date. I'm only going to trust you on that third ring out. You're
Hmm.
not getting any closer than that until I see that I can trust you and we can communicate. But there's so much that has to happen for this to actually lead to a long-term relationship. And yet you guys are like terrified that if you don't get married because of like
Hmm.
the first date, that it's a complete failure.
Hmm.
Like no, don't look at it like that. It's gonna just make you scared. Look at it like this would be nice to hang out and go do something fun together. And if it we never see each other again, at least we know what it was like to see each other and stop wondering so much.
Hmm.
Yeah, I do think about it like that sometimes, but then I catastrophize everything. So then I start going, oh, well, I just wasted 3 years talking to someone and I didn't end up liking them. And so I literally just, I think I turn everything into a negative in terms of like dating. And I think that's a huge issue that I have.
Well, you want to reframe it as like, okay, so what if the relationship doesn't work out at some point? Does that mean that all the good times that you had along the way weren't worth it? I mean, most relationships are going to fail, right? I mean, the divorce, I'm
So
sorry.
positive.
I mean,
Okay.
that's just the reality
Wow.
of life, right? Okay. It's harsh, but it's true. I mean, the divorce rate is like what, 60%. And those are two people that say they want to spend their life together forever. So sometimes people come into our life for a short amount of time, sometimes longer, but it doesn't mean that it was a failure just because it didn't wind up working out. You
Hmm.
could say, oh, it was a complete failure because at the end we're not together. Okay, I could maybe there's some truth to that.
Hmm.
But what about all the good times or the times that you did enjoy their company and that you love spending with that? Does that mean, I mean, it's a failure?
And one thing that I do like about your relationship is the fact, what I had said in the beginning, the fact that the two of you can be really vulnerable conversationally through these messages, So I hear what you're saying about these 3 years invested, kind of building, being vulnerable. It's like you feel like you've given so much of yourself. And I think there can be this viewpoint of you give yourself away in each relationship and then you kind of lose yourself in that. But I see it from a different light. I see it as, you're practicing that muscle that is vulnerability. You're saying, I can do vulnerability in this context. I wonder if I can do it in this other context. I wonder if I can challenge myself. So I don't think any of those 3 years would be in vain. I think if anything, you've been growing through that time period, and this next step, whatever it looks like, is going to be growth for you too.
Yeah, I'm trying to like figure out how I want to go about it because I don't just want to text forever.
Mhm.
Um, so I was like trying to figure out how to go about it, and that's one of the main things that I called for. I guess I just wanted advice because my friends, they're young. They're always like, well, just show up to his work. And I'm like, that sounds insane. Um, and they give me, I think, like horrible advice a lot of times. And I just, I'm not gonna follow through with what they have to say. So I think I wanted advice on like how to go about it in a way that doesn't look creepy. Because they literally are just like, we'll go with you. We'll show up to you to his work. And I just don't think I wouldn't want that to happen.
It's wild to me that you know where he lives and you know where he works, but the two of you have never seen each other.
I know.
I don't know. You have a lot to think about, and I'm sure it's going to be overwhelming, but try reframing some of the ways that you're looking at things. Maybe try those small bits to connect and
Hmm.
see how he responds to voice notes and
Hmm.
video things, and then maybe a phone call and video chat before leading up to a date, because all those are much smaller than meeting in
Right.
person.
And you want to be able to take some of those healthy social risks, right? So it might not be the social risk of showing up at his work, right? But it might be a social risk of sending that text that's maybe a little bit more direct than what you would usually send. Or maybe it is sending a voice note, and maybe it's recording it 3 times because your voice sounded shaky in the first take, you know? So I think what's more important here is the process of going through with it and doing. You know, you're facing a fear and there's always going to be a discomfort with that.
Yeah. You got a lot to think about.
Hmm.
Okay. You got all these different options at this point, and don't rush into a decision, but you can consider all your options and you can consider the pros and the cons of handling it in different ways. And maybe we can have you back again in the future with an update where you talk a little bit more about what happened.
Right. And we really appreciate you being vulnerable with us. I just want to say it again. You know, it is a skill, it can be scary, but we appreciate you taking the time to share your story.
Yeah, I was so excited to be on here. I was scared. I'm not gonna lie. I was so scared. I was like, what am I gonna talk about? And like,
We did it too.
yeah, I was scared, but I was so excited because I've been watching you guys forever. So it feels like I think I almost felt like I knew you guys from YouTube, and I think that's why it was less scary.
We hear that every day, pretty much. A lot of
Mhm.
people, they're always scared to talk with us. But I say, I'm the same person that you see all the time in those videos. You could just relax. Remember, you know who I am. I don't know who you are. So you don't have to worry. Okay. So are you glad you talked about it?
Yeah, yeah, I am because I really like had no idea how to go about it because I like I said, I just get crazy ideas from my friends. And so I just wanted like I guess level-headed ideas. Because I don't think I had any idea of what to do at all. So yeah, I was really glad I talked about it.
And can I just point out the irony that I described you guys as two hermit crabs in tanks waving at each other from across the pet store. And when he was in Germany,
Oh, you got
he got
shells.
you seashells.
Yeah.
Could I have picked a better analogy? Sometimes the universe just gives you those gifts,
He's
right?
hiding in those shells right now.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and maybe you'll give us an update on the future so we can hear what happened.
Yeah, I'll definitely I'll try. I'll try to move along a little bit, speed it up. So you'll hear something in this lifetime, I hope.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and caller.
Right?
If you're interested in being on the show, you can go to the website and fill out an email and let us know your situation, and we can consider having you on.
We'd be more than happy to give you our 2 cents.